Welcome. In the last lecture, we understood the structure of the ear. We talked about the outer ear, middle ear and inner ear. Now in this section, we'll understand how inner ear plays an important role in equilibrium. Also, we would understand the complete mechanism of hearing. So to begin with, equilibrium, we understand in two terms. We talk about linear movement as well as the rotational movement. So when I say I'm moving my head up and down, this is a linear movement. I am moving my head to and fro, that is a rotational motion, right? So this two important motions are part of understanding the equilibrium in the ear. Now as we understood, the inner ear has two important concepts, ampulla and utricle. Now utricle and saccule, both of them govern the linear movement. Ampulla governs the rotational movement. And all of these are present in the inner ear. Now, utricle and saccule, they are part of the balancing systems and they detect the linear motion, or I can say the linear acceleration. Now, what happens is there are hair-like substances which are embedded within the otoliths. Now what is otolith? Otolith is nothing but calcium carbonate, and these calcium carbonate crystals have small hair-like mechanisms which are known as stereocilia. Now these stereocilia are important to understand the linear movement. For example, I am sitting in a moving car, so my head moves in the car. Now when my head moves in the car, this is a horizontal movement, and this horizontal movement is governed by utricle. The next is when I am moving up and down in an elevator. This is a vertical movement, and this vertical movement is governed by saccule. So when my head moves forward or tilts forward, in that case these otoliths move slowly, but when they move, the inertia bends the stereocilia which are present, and this stereocilia on the hair cell actually depolarize, and this is one of the reasons we talk about the concept of balancing. Very important. So horizontal movement, which is in a horizontal moving vehicle, we understand it is by the utricle, and the vertical movement in an elevator or a lift is due to saccule. So the electric signals which are generated there are sent to the brain for processing. Now brain sends the impulse to regain a normal condition. Once I move front, when I am in a vehicle, I tilt my head front, I regain it back to a normal position. So that's because of the signal that is received from the brain, and my muscle again reactivates to make it a normal position. The next is rotational movement. Now as we said, the base of the semicircular canal is where the vestibule meets, and this region is what is called as ampulla, and this ampulla is what governs the rotational motion, the head rotating to and fro. Now when we say what happens in the ear is, now fluid is filled in the ear. Now this fluid moves slowly in the direction of the motion of cupula. Now what happens is the rotation of the head and the cupula moves in opposite direction. So it's actually the endolymph which is inside the semicircular canals which pushes against the cupula. So the direction is opposite. Now this opposite movements lead to rotation of the head. So very important is the idea of opposite direction. So movement of the head opposite to the bending of the cupula leads to the rotational motion, and that is because of the endolymphs, which is the fluid in the semicircular canal. Now with this bending, what would happen? Either there would be depolarization or hyperpolarization based on where the cells are moving. Now if the cells are moving in the same direction or the opposite direction, based on that there would be a depolarization or a hyperpolarization. Finally the signal would go on to the brain and this would be activated.